Welcome to Retiring Well, where it's our job to help you enjoy financial security in any economy. I'm Michael Reese, your national show host, and I'd like to introduce you to your local retirement planning specialists.
And in Birmingham, Alabama, this is Chartered Retirement Planning Counselor and your local retirement planning specialist, Tad Hill.
This week, we are talking about the sequester and government spending in general. You know, this is a macroeconomic topic, but it truly does whittle its way down to affect you and your family. So sit back, relax, and enjoy today's show.
Retiring Well with Michael Reese, providing financial security in any economy. Today is the day you can take control of your financial future and eliminate worrying about your money forever. Retiring Well with Michael Reese, featuring Chartered Retirement Planning Counselor Tad Hill, founder of Freedom Financial Group in Birmingham.
Well, you've seen the news, you've read the papers. I mean, you can't help but notice that there's this sequester thing going on out there. And basically all it means is that because, our government is dysfunctional, they've forced spending cuts on themselves. And the howling from it is heard all throughout the country. I mean, my goodness. Let's see, I have heard how the FAA is, how flights are late because they had to cut costs, the FAA. I've heard that IRS agents have had to take a couple of days off they've been forced to take some time off. I've heard that there are that a husband and wife, where both couples work for the government in Washington, D.C. Oh my goodness, the world is apparently ending for them. So anyway, everywhere you look, you see that these forced cuts are creating havoc on the government. At least that's what they want you to think, right? Well, I think it would be a good idea to take a look at how our government spends money and kind of what they've promised out there. Because, when it comes to you and I, how our finances are affected, well, what the government's doing does play a bit of a role, especially if they're going out of control. Like if you look over in the European Union, you're seeing countries falling apart because their governments are spending money like crazy. So what we've brought up here on the screen beside me now is something called the U.S. Debt Clock. If you have not seen this website before, it's called usdebtclock.org. And it has some really interesting information here. And if you go there, now you don't see it on the screen beside me, but you do see it if you're there actually in real time. They show the national debt rolling in real time. And right now it's almost 17 trillion, getting pretty close to 17 trillion. We're talking almost $150,000 per taxpayer. In other words, if we want to pay off our national debt, it's going to take $150,000 per taxpayer. And I got to ask you a question. How many taxpayers do you know are going to be able to come up with 150 grand just to pay off the national debt? I mean, not too many, right? But that's just the tip of the iceberg. At the bottom of the screen, they show Social Security, prescription drugs, Medicare. And when you add those up, I mean, look at them. Social Security over 16 trillion, about the size of national debt. Prescription drugs, 21 trillion in the hole. Medicare, 80-some trillion in the hole. We're talking, you add those up, over $120 trillion of benefits that our government has promised the people that they have not yet collected a dime of. This is what they're showing there. This is what they're short. And you do the math, that's over $1 million per taxpayer. Heck, if you can't figure out who can pay 150 grand, who's going to pay $1 million? It's not going to happen. And meanwhile, going back to the sequester, our government's freaking out over the cuts, the really deep cuts they're making for that sequester. Well, here's a chart that shows you what those cuts really look like. It's the tiny sliver at the top of the chart. In fact, what I'm seeing is net government spending is still going up. They're not making cuts. They're not serious about it. This is a major problem. The U.S. debt clock's showing us a major problem out there. And we've got a government right now that's freaking out over the tiny little cuts from the sequester. How can you expect them if they can't deal with this little thing, what's going to happen when they have to deal with the big problems that we really have? This is a major challenge, and it's just continuing to spiral out of control. Well, here's the thing. This is going to affect us at some point. It's a snowball coming down the hill, and it will hit. What I want to do now is I want to turn it over to your local retirement planning specialists, and they're going to share with you 3 ways that this can affect you.
And now, featuring Chartered Retirement Planning Counselor Tad Hill.
Well, Mike, there are a lot of potential issues that the sequester makes us think about. Some that it's going to create, but others that where it's more of a foreshadowing of what we may see moving forward. The first one is that it's already hit people's paychecks. You know, the taxes have gone up, and that's affecting things. So we've got to be aware of the fact that to get out of this debt hole that we've dug ourselves in, eventually there is going to have to be a combination of increased revenue and decreased spending. So whether you're a fan of the sequester or not, or where the spending cuts are coming from, that's not really the point in my opinion. The point is that at some point we are going to have to cut spending and we're going to have to raise revenue. So the big impact for the average American, for us, is that we are going to see taxes going up. I think that's almost a certainty at some point moving forward. Now, the big thing though when it comes to retirement planning is that the sequester, like everything else that the government does, is beyond our control. So one of the things that I see a lot is that folks come in and you're very concerned about the leadership of the country, where things are going globally, and you're not sure what to do with your investments. Interest rates are at all-time lows, the market's at an all-time high. It's a very challenging environment. And so what happens too frequently for folks is because it seems overwhelming and it seems intimidating, what do we do as human beings? Sometimes we stick our head in the sand. And that's whether you're making a decision or you're choosing not to make a decision, even not making decisions is still making a decision. So what we have to do is we've got to understand that most things that affect us negatively are within our control. Most of the time that I sit down with people and I see that they've got a challenge in their retirement plan, it's normally not because of something that somebody else did, that the government did, or the world economy. Normally it's something that could have very easily been planned for and dealt with and wasn't. So when we talk about things like the sequester, we talk about future inflation because of the monetary policy of the central banks. The main thing that I want people to keep in mind is, other than going out and casting our vote, there is nothing we can do about those things. We have to plan for our circumstances. And it's that kind of planning that normally is missing, and that's the thing that's going to cause you the biggest problem. You know, 25, 30 years of unemployment called retirement, most people that come and see us, we can structure a plan that's going to protect you very well. Now, look, life has risks. Life is full of risks. We can't eliminate the risks of living. But what we can do is put the right plan in place where you're as protected as possible. And we talk about things like the sequester, that's really what goes through my mind. Look, our government's dysfunctional, and I'm annoyed by it, but I can't change it. So I need to do the things that I can do to protect myself and my family. And that's what our retirement roadmap review does. If you want to do that for yourself, for your family, give the number on the screen a call, and I'm willing to set aside time to sit down with you and do our retirement roadmap review. What this consists of is us answering all of the must-know facts for you and your retirement so that you've got a plan and you're in control. Give the number on the screen a call. I'll be happy to do that for you.
Tad, that was very insightful. We appreciate that great information. And folks, you just heard Tad make a special offer to visit with you absolutely free of charge. All you got to do is call the number on the screen, and you need to qualify. But I got to tell you, if I were in the Birmingham area and if I qualified, I'd be calling the number right now. You should do the same. All right, I don't want you to go anywhere because coming up, we're going to answer our question of the week.
Let's talk about ways to protect your principal that have the potential to earn a decent return. Many of you want your money to be protected. That makes a lot of sense in today's unsettled economy. But it's difficult these days to find a place that pays you a reasonable amount of interest. It's frustrating. That's where we come in.
Ways to protect your principal with the potential to earn a decent return are available if you know where to look. We evaluate them every day.
It's one more reason that now more than ever, you need to talk to a retirement planning specialist. Why not call the number on your screen right now? We'd love to talk to you about protecting your retirement.
You've worked your entire life to become financially secure so you can enjoy a comfortable retirement. But when you get there, what's next? Wall Street and the financial media flood the airwaves with information about what you should and shouldn't do. But who are they working for? Who can you trust?
For the past 17 years, I've focused on helping people just like you protect and preserve their retirement security. And during that time, I've identified 7 different lies, each with the potential to destroy the security that you've worked so hard to build. I believe that you deserve to know the truth. And so I've built a website that hosts a series of videos that's free of charge that you can watch in the comfort and safety of your own home.
You don't want to miss out on these powerful videos that shine the light of truth on what can be a confusing topic. Why don't you go there now? It's absolutely free, and you'll be glad you did. www.retirementincomelines.com. You deserve to know the truth.
Welcome back. It's time for our question of the week. This week's question comes from Tina in Birmingham, Alabama. And Tina asks, she says, I watched your show on mutual fund expenses. How do I find out what mine are and what is a reasonable expense to pay? Well, Tad, she's from your town. Why don't you go ahead and help Tina answer her questions?
Well, Mike, as you know, understanding mutual fund fees is a very challenging thing because most of them aren't visible to the holders of the mutual funds. And folks, this is a topic that we've spoken on before, but there have been innumerable articles, TV segments, shows about the cost and expense of mutual funds and 401ks, and most of the fees are hidden. So a lot of times people think that funds have either loads or no loads, and that's the only thing you have to worry about. All that's telling you is, did I pay my broker a commission or not? If it's a loaded fund, then there's a load on the front end, which is a commission that goes to the broker. A no-load fund means that there wasn't an upfront commission that goes to the broker. That's only about how the broker gets paid. The mutual fund company themselves, they have to make money. They've got to make it somehow. How do you think that is? The only way they make money is by charging fees inside the fund. A mutual fund is a corporation. It's got a board of directors and a team of people that are designed to try to outperform whatever index they're tracking. And there are a lot of costs internally associated with that. Now, we have a proprietary software package that allows us to go in and analyze those fees and tell you exactly what the fees are inside your mutual fund. What are the trading costs? A lot of things that don't show up when you look at a rating of the mutual fund and the fees. So there is a way to uncover these internal fees, but it's not something that's obvious. So the thing that I would tell you is that if you've got mutual funds, chances are your fees are pretty high, and you want to know what they are, because long term the cost of fees, the impact of fees can really affect your long-term returns. So if you're holding mutual funds and you've always thought, oh, I didn't pay my broker, they're no loaded funds, so I'm not paying anything, give us a call and we'll run this report for you. I will show you what the expense of your mutual funds are, and then at least you know there's clarity. So there's strength and clarity. Give the number on the screen a call and we'll be happy to sit down for you and do that.
All right, this week in Chalk Talk, I want to give you an example of how to build a portfolio, how you should structure your portfolio in retirement. And you know, people in the financial industry, they try to make it so complicated. It's not that complicated. It can be actually pretty simple. And I'll give you a little example here. So let's imagine here's your pot of money, right? You've got a certain amount of money, whatever it is that you save for retirement. So how should you structure that? Well, it's really simple. All you want to do is kind of break it into two parts. So we're going to have a bucket over here, and we're going to have a bucket over here. This is going to be your income bucket, and this is going to be your growth bucket. So, you know, if you need income during your retirement, what should you do? You should take enough money from your portfolio, put it in a place where it is safe and stable and it delivers predictable income. So you want to set up a base level of retirement income. You want it to be stable, predictable, and you want it to last as long as you do. So you might want to use, there's different accounts you can use for that, but the point is carve out enough of your portfolio to satisfy your base income needs. Then with the rest of the money, you dump it over here. And I said growth. That doesn't mean you have to have some crazy growth account, super high risk. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is you just segregate the rest of the money over here, and the purpose of that money is to grow over time so that, you know, we've been talking on the show over time about inflation and how that is likely to come down the road, the way the Fed's printing money. Well, guess what? If inflation comes, it'll be nice to have a base of stable and predictable income, but you're going to want to have some more money over here to help, you know, increase that income over time so you can maintain your standard of living. Or things may come up in your future, you know, healthcare expenses, maybe the kids need money. That's what this is for over here. So don't overcomplicate it. You know, one of the biggest things that happens, people come to, you know, our firm all the time and they have all these statements. They don't have a clue what's going on. Maybe that's you. Really, when all said and done, when it comes to retirement, how you structure your portfolio, simple stuff. Have some income and put the rest in growth. This, by the way, it's one of the reasons I encourage you to talk to a retirement planning specialist, because they can help you understand this crystal clear in a way that works for you, designed specifically for your needs. That's Chalk Talk. Hi Birmingham, Mike Reese here, and I have to tell you, I think you're very fortunate because one of the nation's top retirement planning experts is right there in your neck of the woods. It's my good friend Tad Hill. Tad and I, we get together with top financial advisors, gosh, 4 or 5 times a year anyway,
least, yep.
Just to brainstorm, figure out how we can better help you. Tad, why don't you take a moment and share with the folks how you and Freedom Financial helps people with their retirement planning in Birmingham.
Well, Mike, as you know, we're chartered retirement planning counselors. So what we do is we sit down with you and help you put together a plan to secure your retirement so you have peace of mind and can accomplish all the goals that you want during your retirement years. And it's about understanding what questions to ask and putting that plan together. So for the folks that call the 800 number, I'm willing to set aside some time on my calendar to sit down and do exactly that. Review your situation and help you know what needs to happen to secure your retirement.
Folks, call that number now. Hi, Michael Reese here, and you know what I found is in that critical period, the 5 years before retirement, all the way to the 5 years after retirement, in that 10-year period, I find that over and over again, Americans are making mistakes with their financial planning that, quite frankly, are easily avoided. And it really almost breaks my heart, because if you make little mistakes in this period of time, you can have huge consequences. So in order to help you not make those mistakes, I've put together a simple website with some free videos from me to you to help you be smart about your planning. The website is called 3mistakes.com. It's the number 3 spelled out, THREE, 3mistakes.com. Why don't you go there today?
Hey Birmingham, it's time for the Retirement Rescue of the Week. And this rescue is about Eloise. Eloise is a widow, and she called into the show and came to see us a couple of months ago. Now, Eloise had been working with the folks at her bank. She did not have a broker or anybody that she'd been working with, and her husband had always managed all of the finances. Now, this is something that I see regularly, where one person in the couple does all of the managing of the finances and the other one really wants to have nothing to do with it. And not always, but typically that's the man that has been doing it. But us fellas typically are going to go first. So women, pay attention. It is very likely that at some point, whether you want to or not, you're going to have to pay attention to what's going on with your finances. And it's very important that you're working with someone that has your best interest at heart. I have a fiduciary duty to my clients, and we did a show not too long ago where we talked about that, but basically that means we're required to do what's in your best interest, and not everybody's held to that standard. So Eloise came in, and what I found was that the bank had talked her into putting her money into 2 or 3 variable annuities. And the reason that they did that was because she said she was worried about the stock market. So she put her money in the variable annuities, but she's about to turn 70, and at 70 and a half, she has to start taking distributions from her IRAs. And what kind of money do you think it was that went into these annuities? That's right, IRAs. So the main thing that she was told was, you're going to get 5% growth no matter what happens. So even if the markets crash, your money's going to go up by 5% every year. What they neglected to tell her was that was the income rider on the product, not her actual account value. That's a big misunderstanding when people talk about variable annuities, is that the fixed growth is their actual account value. It's not. It's what's called the income value. Now, another stipulation on these annuities was that if you took any withdrawals, it stopped that 5% growth for that year. So what's going to happen when she turns 70 and a half? She's going to have to start taking withdrawals. The government's going to make her. And these products were not what's called RMD friendly. So if you've got an annuity of any kind, it's important to understand if they are RMD friendly or not. So the main thing that Eloise needed was income from her investments, and she wanted to protect the principal. So we were able to actually take these and reposition them so that we could protect the principal and get her higher income moving forward, and in a way that's RMD friendly. Now, it's important to understand that with annuities, any kind of annuity you have, there are going to be surrender penalties. There are going to be charges if you take out your money. Now, some of them will give you some liquidity. You can take out 5 or 10% without surrender charges. But a lot of times that doesn't exist. And at the very least, you need to understand that even if you can take out 10%, if you take more than that in a year, there are going to be surrender penalties. So if you've got annuities of any kind, I'm not anti-annuity, but you really need to understand what you've got and how it is structured to work. If you're curious about these things for yourself, you want to know, hey, I've got an annuity. What kind is it? Is it variable? Is it fixed? If I got these penalties, is the 5% on the account value or just on the income value? Give the number on the screen a call, and I'll sit down with you and help you understand these things. We were able to help Eloise. Maybe we'll be able to help you too. Call the number on the screen, and I'll set aside time to answer your questions.
Yep, probably my very favorite part of the show each week is listening to these client stories. I mean, it really gives you a great opportunity to see how visiting with a retirement planning specialist can make such a difference in your life. I got to tell you something, if you're not taking advantage of the special offer to visit with your local retirement planning specialist, if you're not calling the number on the screen, I don't know why not. I mean, it's a great opportunity. Call the number, visit, and I can promise you'd be glad you did. All right, I need to change gears here a little bit. As we wrap up today's show, we want to cover an IRA blow up. I have got what I consider to be one of the better blow ups in a while. This comes from, let's see, I just love how the IRS talks, right? CCA 201313025, which CCA stands for Chief Counsel Advice, which here's basically what that means. The IRS came across a situation that the agents didn't know how to handle, so they kicked it upstairs and said, help, tell us what to do. So here we go. We have a situation where we'll call her Ann. Ann, in 2005, I believe, leaves a job where she had a 401k. So what she does is, like a lot of people do, she rolls over the 401k into an IRA. Well, apparently, when that happened way back in 2005, the 401k company messed up and they sent too much money. And when they sent her the 1099, it matched what they sent, so everything looked hunky-dory to her. So what is too much money? And they don't really talk about it here, but it's like, let's say she had $150,000 in her 401k and maybe they sent $170,000. Well, unless she's checking it all the time, she's not going to know. I mean, maybe the market went up, right? So they sent too much money. Well, everything goes along, really cool. And then in 2011, 6 years later, six years later, she gets this letter out of the blue from her old 401k company saying, Ann, we messed up. We sent you too much money. The 1099 was wrong. We have to fix it. And so they sent a brand new 1099. And this alerted the IRS that, Ann rolled over too much money. And you think, well, what's the big deal? Well, here's the big deal. She put too much money in her retirement plan. Say it was $20,000. The IRS said, here's what you got to do. You got to go back and report that $20,000 as ordinary income in the year that it happened, 2006. So that's going to cost you maybe $6,000 in tax. Plus, you've got penalties that you didn't pay on since that point, 6 years of penalties, so there's another couple grand. We're up to $8,000, say. Plus, because you put too much money in an IRA on the rollover, it's a 6% per year penalty. There's another $7,200. We're talking $15,000, $16,000 of tax on this mistake by her old employer's 401k plan. Well, she went to the IRS, says, whoa, it's not my fault. And the IRS said, you're right, it's not your fault. But that's too bad. It is your responsibility as the taxpayer to know how much is coming out of your 401k and how much should be going in your rollover. It's your responsibility to know all of that. Mistakes by your plan don't count. I don't think it's fair. It's the IRS, folks. That's our show. Have a great weekend.